April marks Behavioral Health Today's 5th anniversary. To celebrate our 5th year mark, we're releasing 5 shows this week, 1 episode each day. 2 will be new shows, and 3 will be some of our favorites in the past year. We hope you enjoy all of them, both new and old, and we look forward to bringing you another year of trending and relevant content in behavioral and mental health.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Sharlee Dixon. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Surace. Kevin is a Silicon Valley innovator, serial entrepreneur, and CEO, known as the father of the virtual assistant. With 94 worldwide patents, Kevin has led pioneering work in technology, including the first cellular data smartphone and human-like AI virtual assistant. He is the author of the upcoming book, Joy Success: How Joy Drives Success and Success Creates More Joy, where he explores the transformative power of joy in both personal and professional life. Kevin has been recognized as INC Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year, a CNBC Top Innovator of the Decade, and a World Economic Forum Tech Pioneer. His work spans major projects, including AI driven building management and the retrofits of the Empire State Building and New York Stock Exchange. We're thrilled to have Kevin on the show today as we explore the transformative power of the joy success cycle, diving into how prioritizing joy in everyday tasks can fuel success, reduce negativity, build resilience, and foster a more fulfilling life, all while offering practical strategies to shift mindsets and cultivate positive emotions both personally and professionally. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Sharlee, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as we get started, I kind of mentioned before that I'm really interested in the concept of joy success cycle. So can you explain that core concept for us and how it can really transform the way that we approach life and work?
I can. You know, lots of books have been written on happiness, right? This is,
Right.
and that isn't what this is. This actually came from people asking me, how are you always joyful? Why is that? What do you do? What is it in your life? And it's easy to say, well, I was born with high dopamine, right? That's an easy out to say, well, I just happen to be born with high dopamine. But then I started really digging in, and I've got 94 patents worldwide. You know, I've been inventing, right, and solving problems. And you go, how is your mind open to that? So I started to think about, what does success mean? And of course, success can be very different for very different people. It is not always money. Money's good, right?
Right.
But it is not always money. It could be success with family, success just in getting to one thing today. It could be getting off drugs. It could be anything, however you measure success, right?
Yeah.
And what I kept finding is that people who approached every task and everything that happened to them with joy and found the joy in it, and I'll explain that in a second, versus complaints, actually had a better opportunity with a more open mind to achieve that success. And then started to come up with something called the positive quotient, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I'll give you an example, right? Most people, certainly most Americans, get out of bed in the morning. Believe it or not, they have a complaint. Internal, external, shared. You're laughing because you know what I mean.
Yes.
And throughout your day, if you went to count them, and my goal for your listeners is to get up tomorrow morning and start counting the number of internal or external complaints that you have. It could
Okay.
be a complaint about your hair. It could be a complaint about the way you smell. It could be a complaint that your knees are. It could be a complaint about the weather. It could be it's often also at work complaint about our tasks. Oh, I've been putting this off. I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that person. I don't want to have that meeting. Right. We all just do that. And it's become nature. It is human nature to find the sort of the negatives in all of these things.
Yeah.
But what happens if we said we can't do that? So I encourage everyone to get up tomorrow morning and count the number of complaints they have in a day, internal or external. Some are shared, some just were inside your mind. It will be over 100, and it will shock you. You go,
Mm.
wow, I spent a good portion of the time during my day having negative thoughts about, frankly, my life. Well, how are you ever, when you start thinking about it now, how are you ever going to be successful in anything when all you're doing is wallowing on all that stuff? And again, we
Right.
naturally do that as humans. We naturally gravitate towards that. So then I want you to, the next day, say, okay, I want to live by Kevin's rule. You know what Kevin's rule is? And it'll be in my book when the book comes out, is you only get one complaint per day. So
Ooh.
you get out of bed and you go, oh man, my knees hurt today. You are done for the day. Done for
Wow.
the day. Now, this is more an exercise of kind of, a self control, so that once you realize that you're done for the day, you start forcing yourself to look at every other task and say, I have to do that task. If I had any more complaints left, I might complain about this task, but I can't do that. So it forces you to say, how do I look at this task in a positive way? Now, I know what you're thinking. Sharlee, you're saying, oh, well, what happens if I have to fire someone today? This is the most awful, terrible, stop. It isn't. There's a positive in that task. One, you're going to finish the task. Okay. And the most positive thing, the most amount of joy you can get out of a task is finishing it, good, bad, or otherwise. Second thing is, another way to look at that, and I've had to terminate people, I've had to terminate really good friends. The other way to look at it is to say, look, they're going to be in a better place. They don't realize it in this hour. They're going to be mad at me. I'm going to be in a better place. Everyone's going to work out for the better. They just don't all know it yet. And so what I'm doing is actually going to be good for everyone, right? Because whatever's going on, it isn't working out here, or the program's dead, or whatever's going on, right? So even these hard tasks, you can flip around and say, where can I find joy in this task? And lastly, when you do that, you start building up what we call our positive quotient for the day. So let's say we wake up and we start right in the middle from 0 to 10. We start at 5. If you get up and by the end of breakfast, you had 5 complaints about your life, whatever they are. Oh, this email came in. Oh, I didn't want to read that. Oh, this went wrong. Now you're at 0. You will be the most successful every minute of your life at 10. So your goal is to stay at 10. And the way you stay at 10 is not look at all those things as negatives. Of course, you got an email that you didn't want to see and it came in the morning. You get, well, what's positive about this? What's positive is I got it out of my way. It came in. I now know what they're thinking, and I now know what to do. I get joy from getting that email, right? Even, oh, the customer's angry. Well, yes, of course this happens, but I can get on the phone. I can turn this around and make this a joyful moment as well. And now I'm adding back a point at a time back to my 10, and I want to be at my 10 all day. So again, this is a different way of thinking about all of the tasks and all of the things that happen to us in our life every day on a normal day.
Right. And so I'm really intrigued by the 100 negative thoughts or complaints about
Yeah.
your day or your life every single day. I completely agree with you. Maybe it's more than 100. And so, so I mean, I agree. If
Maybe.
you do wake up with these, and then it's
Yes.
not always conscious either. So you wake up like, oh man, my back hurts today. So
Yep.
how do you change that? I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, tomorrow I'm not having any. I'm only going to give myself one. But what does that really look like? How can you really begin to reduce that, especially with the complaints that aren't necessarily conscious, that just kind of happen?
That's a good point. They stop happening when you realize you can't live your life that way. That is, everything I look at has to be joyful. Now, look, to be clear, we're not talking about when some horrific thing happens, like your house burns down in Southern California. Okay. We're not going to turn that into a joyful moment by somehow getting marshmallows and roasting them, right? We're not going to do that, right? That's a joke, obviously. So there are horrific things. So we're talking about the average day that we all have. 99% of our days, this is what happens. Things happen to us. We do things to other people. We make a list of tasks. We execute those tasks. And so for all of those, it's a mindset change. It's a mindset change. And I have had so many people follow this program that they start to change their mindset when they realize they only get one. So they don't all of a sudden, over a period of weeks, those negatives don't enter your brain because you go, I'm not allowed anymore. I already used my one. Or you save up your one. You save it. I see people saving it to like 5:30, and they get their one and they go, wow, I made it all the way to 5:30. And I held back my one for the most important one, right? That I had to deal with, which was an argument with a son or something. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so it is a mindset shift, like all good things in life are, right? All good things in life are. It's like dieting. In the end, it's a mindset shift. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry.
Right.
But I mean, it's literally a shift of your brain. And the great thing is you control your brain completely. No one else does. You control your mind. So everything that happens to you during the day, you control how you look at that, How can I spin this thing? The tree branch just fell. How do I spin that into a positive? How do I look at that as joy instead? Well, there may be joy into it. The tree is doing what it's supposed to do. The wind is doing its own nature. I got to see nature in action. I mean, I can find joy in every little thing because I do not want to end up back at zero with my positive quotient. And there is no question that joy is directly tied to success. And I will tell you, now that you're thinking about this, look at the number of people who go, well, I tried it. I've never been successful. It was so hard. It was this. Actually, they have a list of complaints. They had no chance to be successful at that task when it was simply a list of complaints. Sure, Shirley, if you were doing this podcast, then you said, oh, I got to interview this Kevin. Oh, I don't want to do it. I hate doing podcasting. I don't know why I do this. And I got to summarize. I got to use this AI now. How are you ever going to have a successful podcast? No one will want to hear from you. No one will want to listen. No one will want to see you. You won't be successful. You won't want to do it. So if you approach your podcast with a sense of joy every single time, even if it's a guest you don't want to interview, but you go, I don't want to interview them, but I'm going to learn something. I'm really going to learn something. You know, maybe they're on the opposite side of politics from me, and I could not disagree with them more. However, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to learn something. I don't have to agree with them, but I'm going to learn something today. And that is a joyful moment because our brains want to learn, right?
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you because to be honest, you just mentioned something that does happen to me from time to time. And I'll be like, gosh, my producer gave me this person and I just do not even understand why they did this to me. But we're going to do this and I'm going to smile and I'm going to talk with a smile on my face. So I completely agree that that mindset shift really does change the perception of success and how you can get it. And it
And it
really does.
changes the
Go ahead.
actual success, not
Yeah.
just the perception of success,
Mm.
the actual success. You
Okay.
will be more successful in that podcast episode by not with a fake smile, but going, wow, I'm going to learn something from this person, even if it's a person that I never wanted to interview. There are things I'm going to, even if the things I learn I don't agree with, but I'm learning someone else's perception of the world, which is actually in the end important for all of us, right? Even if we don't agree with that, we go, wow, that's how they look at that. I don't think they're right, but I'm listening, right? I'm taking it in so that, in fact, next time you do a podcast or the next time you talk to someone, you have more information about a whole other side of life, let's say, than you would have had. Again, you're trying to get to the joy moment in every single thing you do. I'm going to make this podcast joyful, whether
Yeah.
whether that guest wants me to or not. How many guests have you had? I hope none, but this happens to all podcasters, right? And you get on and you start talking to them, they go, yes. You go, I'm in trouble here because they don't talk. Is it a mute? I don't know. Nothing's happening, right?
Yeah.
So, and still, you got to make joy out of that. And so, everything joyful. And the way you get there is to limit yourself to one complaint a day. It's hard, really, really hard. It won't happen in a day, but I guarantee you can get there in a matter of weeks. And it changes your mindset because you hold your complaint. You know, it's a valuable thing. You're going to hold it as long as you can because you might need that later in the day.
Okay. And so just to give a devil's advocate type of look at this, is not having some level of negative thought, does that not lead into success as well? So do we not need both to fuel us towards success? Both the
Well,
joy
give
and
me
the
an
negative thought?
example. Sure. Give me an example of a negative thought that would lead you to success.
Well, the weather is really cold here. I am in North Carolina and it is freezing to me here. But the level of success that it leads me to is I get, well, you know what? Maybe I'm disproving your point because now I'm thinking as a mindset shift to that, you know what? Now I'm able to spend a bit more time in my house with my children because we're all and my spouse and we're all in here together and it's cold
Right.
outside. So we're not going out there.
Right.
Yeah, I
That's
proved
the
it.
other way to look at it. I'll give you another way
Yeah.
to look at cold, which there's a book called The Comfort Crisis. I haven't read, my wife has read. And The Comfort Crisis says we have gotten so used to being at 72 degrees in our homes, but our bodies are fully capable of going out there at least for a few minutes and freezing our rear end off. No problem doing that, right? You're not going to die in 2 or 3 minutes. You can
True.
go out there without a coat and I don't care how cold it is, it's going to be 10 below zero. And you can do it for 2 minutes and come back in. And in fact, it's actually good for your body. It's good for your heart. It's good for it's good for everything because it gets your body going in ways that it's supposed to do once in a while, right? And that's why you see some of these people doing these cold plunges and then hot stuff and they go back and forth and all of that. You can just walk, you don't need a cold plunge. Walk right outside the front door and go, this is actually good for me as a human. And so isn't it great that it's cold? I don't have to go someplace to get a cold plunge or crazy air conditioning. I just walk out my door for free, freeze for 2 minutes, and come back in and go, that's invigorating. And you know what's interesting about this? The first time you do that, in 5 seconds, you go, I can't do this anymore. Okay. The next day, 10 seconds. I can't do it longer than that. Within 2 weeks, you can go out there for 2 minutes and go, I couldn't do it 5 seconds on the first day. And today I'm doing it 2 minutes. And now I'm feeling totally invigorated doing it. So there is joy even when it's cold outside. All how you look at it.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I see though that it really is about that mindset shift that is kind of hard to do.
Right.
How do you
It is.
train yourself to do that?
Well, look, there are joy. So one of the things we talk about in the book is the joy killers and how to overcome fear and stress and burnout and things like that, right? Because
Yeah.
there are these cycles, and you know what they are, and they cycle you down into nowhere. You're depressed, right? Yeah. And again,
Mm,
we know we cannot be successful when we've gone down that cycle. It's not a
right.
choice. It's not going to be there. So we have to get ourselves out of that cycle again by finding joy in everything. It's cold outside. How do I find joy in that? My kids are home from school today. Maybe it's a snow day, right? How do I find joy in that? Isn't it great that I get to spend time with my children? And that time is going to go by so quickly when they're off to college and they never come back again, right? So isn't this a positive? I can turn this into a positive. Maybe we can play a game together. Maybe we can do something else together, right? Obviously, there's joy boosters like cultivating positive emotions and mindsets and habits, right? So you can
Right.
always try to boost that. But in the end, you have to realize it's a cycle. And you don't want to go down the killer cycle. You really want to go in that cycle that leads to that positive quotient getting to a 10 and staying at a 10 all the time. And again, that mindset, I will tell you the mindset, once you say I only get one complaint a day, it actually works over time to get you there because
Okay.
you go, well, I'm going, no, I'm not. I'm not wasting my complaint on this. So how do I find something joyful in this? And you go, oh, I
Mhm.
can. My microphone broke, but I'm going to use a different microphone and I'm going to find joy in that. And I'm going to sound different to my audience and it's going to be okay.
Mhm. Nice. Nice. Okay. And so it really does sound like the joy success cycles, they really encourage resilience and as a way to kind of buffer us as we go through difficult and stressful times throughout life, whether that's personal things that are happening at home, things at work. How can we encourage that level of resilience?
First, get into the mindset that success is tied to joy. And I think that in the past, we haven't seen them tied together, right?
Mm-mm.
We haven't seen them tied together. We say, oh, there's happiness over here. And then there's all kinds of books about success and working hard and driving hard and whatever other things you have to do for success, right? But in the end, I found that success is a mindset. And the mindset is if all of my tasks and all of the things that happen to me, I find joy in, I find the joy side of them, my mind is open and ready to find problems and solve them, to listen to people better, right? All of the things that you would want to do to learn, to help, to promote, to invent are at your disposal. But they're not at your disposal after you've had 10 complaints and it's only 9 a.m. Not at your disposal. You're just down in the gutter and you got to work yourself back out. And so when you tie them together, you say, well, I do want to be successful. Therefore, everything I do today and everything that comes at me, I will look at on the side of joy, not on the side of a negative. I don't want negatives in my life and I don't need them. And they don't lead to anything. They really don't lead to anything. I think we've somewhat been taught, like you brought up, Sharlee, is that,
Mhm.
oh, well, you need this negative so that now look, I
Right.
do think that probably kids need to lose a game once in a while, right? To understand what loss is.
Right.
However, there's joy in losing. You know what the joy in losing is? That is a learning experience. I know you're going to cry, and I know you didn't want to lose that soccer game. On the other hand, it's important for you to lose once in a while because in
Right.
life, you don't always win. You can't. If you always won, everybody would be a billionaire. So not
Right.
everyone wins. Doesn't work that way. So you need to understand losses. You need to understand that. I'll give an example. We need to understand that jobs are a place you go and do something temporarily. That's it. And people enter their job and go, this is it. I'm going to work. In their mind, somehow they think they're going to work there forever. The average tenure and the average job across the US is 3.5 or 4 years, some number like that. But somehow you think you're going to outlast that. And so when the boss comes to you and says, even you've been a great worker, but we're eliminating this program and I just don't have another place for you. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't be shocked at all. On day one, you knew that it wasn't a permanent job. Very few jobs are permanent. You knew it wasn't permanent. So why are you disappointed? I mean, yes, you got to go find another one. And yes, you got to find a new team. And yes, and all those things. And yes, money. But in the end, what's the joy in that? You knew it was coming. It's not a surprise. I'm glad it happened today so that I can move on and learn new things at a new place.
Mm.
That's a joyful moment. It's not a negative moment. And I know that's hard for people to say, but I just lost my job.
Yeah.
Understood. But you knew you were going to lose your job someday. Why is it a shock? Is it a shock? No, it shouldn't be a shock. Actually, it was Reid
Okay.
Hoffman who said, please realize jobs are not permanent, they're temporary. You drop some golden nuggets and they give you some golden nuggets. And at some point, that exchange ends and you move to a different job.
Yep.
That's how it works. And so stop being surprised when you're laid off or fired or they close the facility, or because that's what happens. That's what happens. Peter, your producer, I hope he's your producer forever. But what is forever? 82 years? Probably not going to happen, right? Sometime
Right.
between now and 82 years from now, Peter won't be producing this show for
Mhm.
many, many reasons. Show goes off the air. Sharlee moves on. Peter gets a better job. Who knows? I mean, again, no job is permanent.
Hmm. You bring me to an interesting question. So you talk a lot about, I guess, expecting that there will be negative things, but looking at them with a positive mindset. But
Yeah,
what about things that aren't necessarily expected? Health concerns, I don't know,
right. So
divorce,
again,
the things that aren't regular.
divorce could bring joy. Trust me.
Agreed.
By the time the two of you have gotten to where you're divorcing, there will be more joy on the other side. That's the truth, right?
Agreed.
Whatever
Yeah.
led you to this point. And again, statistically, marriages aren't permanent. They're supposed to be. I get that. But statistically,
That is
I
true.
don't want people writing to me and yelling at me, marriages should be permanent and religion. I get that. I'm not arguing that. But we know statistically that's a fact that they aren't. And so don't be totally shocked, right?
Mm.
When something goes awry, right? Someone cheated,
Okay.
someone did something wrong. But I know it's going to be a shock, but in the end, you got to say, I'm going to come out of this actually in a better place with more joy because this thing was broken for us to get to the point where we're divorcing. And maybe it
Right.
was broken in a way you didn't even know. So
Right.
again, when we talk about the joy success cycle, we are also talking about your general everyday 99% of the time efforts,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Clearly, you've been given, something from the doctor that says, you have terminal cancer. There's no joy in that. We're not going to make light of that, right? That is a whole different process, right? But
Mhm.
that isn't the process of life. And at that point, what is success anyway? That's a whole different thing. So we're talking about most of the time in our everyday lives when it isn't cancer, your house didn't burn down. These aren't these huge things that might happen to us once or twice in life, right? And I think people like to pick on those and say, well, when this happens, why should I be joyful? You shouldn't. You have earned the right to cry and be sad. That
Fair.
is not a day to strive for success. There will be other days to strive to success. That isn't today. Do what's right as a human. Be
Okay.
emotional, do what you're doing. 3 days later, what is it? If you're Jewish, you sit Shiva for a certain period of time. And when that time's over, you are no longer allowed to mourn. The mourning time is done. And that was done thousands of years ago for a particular purpose, so that you could get back to work and get back to the success of your family and your job and whatever it is. And that you had to have that cutoff of mourning. And in Italian households, in my background's Italian, we often would have just X days of mourning, and then it was over. and you had to move on. You had to move on. Why? What are you going to do? Not move on with life? Going to wallow in it every day? You can't. You have to move on. So do what's right, human emotions, and then get back to the joy success cycle. Or just say, I no longer want to be successful in anything I do. Then you need help, right?
Right.
You need
That's
a different kind of
level.
help.
Yeah.
The book's not going to help you. So again, look at our everyday 99% of the time, tie joy to success and start limiting yourself to these negatives. Get yourself in the joy success cycle rather than the doom spiral down. And you end up in a different place in life. I can guarantee you end up in a different place in life. And you also feel better about life. And again, all this came from people asking me, why is it that you have this success? Why is it that you get to work with all these companies? Why is it that you're a keynote speaker and a Broadway producer and a film producer and a, active, hands-on, right? How are you able to even do all these things? I find joy in all of them. And I find joy in everything I do all the way through every task list. And I do task lists for the day. Here's my 10 things I will do today. Of course, I have the things on my calendar, but I have to achieve these other 10. And I'm going to find joy in each of them. And sometimes I'll write what the joy is next to them, right? Because I want each of those tasks to have a benefit of joy for me. And sometimes the only benefit is completing the task. So, I've got to go clean the attic. By the way, there's lots of joy in cleaning the attic, believe it or not, because you find old mementos, you find things that are memories, but even if the only thing, like I've got to sweep the floor, and the only thing that comes of that is the checkbox that says, I've completed one of my 10 tasks today. That I get great joy from completing tasks. And when you start to get great joy from just completing the things on your list, then you don't need to worry about what it is that you're doing. It's more important to just complete it so that you check it off, because you get a great dopamine hit by checking it off, right?
We'll be right back after word from our sponsor.
Most of us spend more time at work than anywhere else doing anything else. So why not spend that time in a job you love? Introducing Triad's Jobs Marketplace, the only job site dedicated specifically to behavioral and mental health professionals. Featuring more than 1,000 open jobs from dozens of behavioral and mental health employers, and searchable by location, professional field, employment type, specialization, and more. Jobs Marketplace helps you find your next career opportunity. Full-time, part-time, or gig time, make the most of your time. To access Jobs Marketplace, register for your free professional account at hellotriad.com/BHT. That's hellotriad.com/BHT, and then click to Jobs Marketplace. If you're already a member of the Triad community, visit app.hellotriad.com/jobs. That's app.hellotriad.com/jobs. Visit us today and take your next career step tomorrow.
I'm really liking this, Kevin. I'm really interested in this. So, as someone who does not necessarily always think about the joy in everything, I would say that I am generally a positive person, but I do have a lot of internal complaint or like, oh, this kind of sucks, but we're going to do it anyway. Not necessarily find the joy in it, but not necessarily being negative either. What are some practical steps for people like me or someone that really wants to change their mindset, have some reset practices that we can really implement to shift our mindset? Because I know that that mindset shift is not easy or simple to
No.
do. So what are some practical steps that we can take to make some changes?
Well, I'll put it all together because we've talked about a lot of them. Day one, count the number of negative thoughts you had. It'll be over 100. And you'll be shocked it's over 100. Yeah, how could I have 100? And then it will dawn on you that this actually isn't good. There's no good that can come from 100 negative thoughts throughout the day. It's not going to lead you to any form of success. In fact, it's draining you of energy that you need towards your success. Do that. Number two, get yourself on a program to target one per day. And when you hit your one, and if it happens to be right when you get up, you hear the buzzer in your mind that goes, I now have no more to spend today. I can't do anymore, right? And again, that starts to train the mind to say, don't go there. Number three, make your list of tasks for the day. And I love making lists, and write next to them what the joy is from doing this task. And again, maybe only the joy is completing the task. It may be nothing joyful in doing the task, so to speak, but there's great joy in completing it. So when you sweep the floor or you vacuum the carpet or you do the laundry, there's great joy in just completing the task. And you learn that that's enough. That's enough. It didn't matter what was in the task. It mattered that I completed something on my list so that I get to the end of the day and maybe I've completed 8 of the 10. And that brings great joy, right? So it really is mindset thinking. And the last and probably most important is tying joy to success mentally. So you realize you will not achieve the highest level of success that you're capable of in your life if you don't do this, because you're burning the success cycles downward and ending up at a score of 0. And you have to you have to dig yourself out of that, right? And get all the way back to the most successful places, be it a 10, right? On your positive quotient. You want to drive that positive quotient up. And I think, if you just start the morning at a 5 and again, you use that all up and you're at a 0, again, what's the mental shift? You start counting that and you go, oh, I'm at 0. Yeah, Kevin was right. I don't want to be at 0. I've got to be at 10. So now I have to look at everything going forward. I have to find the joy in everything going forward that day to get back to the 10. And once you're at the 10, you go, my mind is open. I am ready to take on the world. I feel different, right? I act different. Go outside, stand in the cold, get joy from it. It's not hurting you. It's not hurting your skin. It is a joyful moment to feel that invigoration in the body, even if it's 10 seconds. Even if it's 10 seconds. You're going to go try that, Sharlee. I know. You're going to try it.
Yeah,
You're going to try it. And you're going to go after 5 seconds, you're going to go, I hate him. But then it'll be 10 seconds. It'll be 20 the next day. And eventually it's 2 minutes. You go, I got this. And then there's great joy in saying, I achieved this. I did this. And before talking to Kevin, I didn't think it was doable. I said, stay in the house. It's too cold. And now I went out with not even a sweater on, and I'm out here for 2 minutes. And I'm feeling this invigoration from it, right? This boost of energy from it. You go, wow, these are all good things. This is immense joy. So it's all how you approach all of these things. And so there's joy boosters, right? There's these joy practices that we've talked about. And I've given people a joy challenge, which is first count your negatives tomorrow. And then the next day, start to limit yourself to 1. Maybe you can't get there in 1 day, but I want you to hear that buzzer go off as if it's a TV show the next day. Oh no, I've spent my 1. It's what you do the first day. You go, oh, good grief. How am I ever going to do that? I spent my first 1 in the first 2 minutes. How do I get through an entire day? But you will. You will. And maybe you're not successful the first day or the second or the third, but you will be over time. So all just a mental challenge, but Peter doesn't control your mind. You don't control Peter's mind. None of us control the other's minds. You control your own. Everything you do, every statement, every task on your list, everything that comes at you, everything your kids say, all of that, you control how you think about it. And I want you to think about it with joy, even if it's just a new learning moment.
Absolutely. And really you touched on something towards the end that I was really curious about as I listened to the joy and the reset practices is how do we buffer ourselves against other people's negativity? So as I walk through the world being positive, how do I stop, I guess, the entrance of other people's negativity into me?
Well, let me ask you a question. When you walk up and start talking to someone and they go, oh, my day sucks and this sucks and I don't like these new people on our team and I don't like, how long do you really want to stand there?
Not long at all.
Right. Not long at all. It turns out you never wanted to hear that because you don't need to wallow in their pain. They can go wallow in their own pain if that's what they've chosen to do. You don't need to wallow in it with them. No one actually likes to be around people who complain. No one. You don't. And in fact, if you look at, the friends you really like to hang around with, you're probably going to choose friends that aren't complaining all the time. I get that sometimes they come over and they, oh, my kids are okay. But generally speaking, you go, actually, I want to be around people who lift me up and who boost me up. And so what you do is you start to gravitate more to the people who are following this process anyway. They are naturally joyful, naturally have high dopamine, or they've realized that they need to be in the joy success cycle. And they spend that time. When you come over, you go, look at these 5 things that I did today. And they're really going to impact our team together. This is so exciting. What do you think about that? And you go, This is cool. I want to be around this person more. Can, can we have a cup of coffee together, whatever it is, right? And so I would say if people are really, sort of in your circles that tend to be negative or tend to spend less time with them, those are joy killers. It's what we call joy
Mhm.
killers. And you need to try to get the joy killers as much out of your life. These are bad humans. When the book comes out, you can buy them a copy of the book and say, I think this might help you. Hint, hint. And I'd love to spend more time with you after you read it and do it.
Understood. At the beginning of our talk today, you mentioned that joy and happiness or contentment are not the same thing. Can you kind of go deeper into that and distinguish between the two, and why is joy more dynamic or more powerful than happiness and contentment?
Yeah, look, happiness and contentment are more longer term things. So, when you think contentment is definitely longer term. I'm not content for 12 seconds. I'm content. Okay, great. We want you to be content. We also want you to be happy. That's great. Happiness tends to, am I happy in life? Right? Am I happy in life? Am I happy today? Am I happy with my life? But joy can be a momentary thing. We don't typically think of happiness happening for 1 minute, but we can think of joy as happening for 1 minute. So I've completed this task and it brought me joy for this minute.
Gotcha.
That didn't bring you happiness in life, but it brought me joy for this minute because I completed this task. Or I looked at this task in a way that is going to bring me joy, right? I'm going to look at it in that way. So I think joy can be a similar emotion to the other two, except it can be short and fleeting if you want it to be, right?
Okay.
It's about task oriented things or things that happen during our day. I get up. So when I wake up, I go, first thing I do, the sun's up, whether the sun's up or cloudy or whatever, but the sun's up and I'm alive. Because the alternative to waking up is to not waking up, which means you died in your sleep.
Mhm.
So how can you not be incredibly joyful for this gift of today? And today is what you will make of it. And the whole day is open for you. Maybe you made your list last night. Maybe you're going to make your list this morning, but the whole day is open for you to make of it what you wish. You can do it, and only you can do it. No one can take that away from you. No one can make your day for you. And you can fill your day with 300 moments of joy or not. It's up to you.
Mm. Hmm. I like that the idea of joy is something that you are personally creating for yourself, and you can really make your day be all about having or finding those joyous moments. Really like that.
Absolutely. And by the way, at the end of the day, you may look back and say, wow, I had a happy day today. I am happy.
Mhm.
I'm fundamentally happy. That's great. But
Yeah.
it's related to, but not directly to all those joy moments that you had all day. Because joy can be a moment. And it is those joy moments that keep you in sort of in the set of the joy success cycle so that you're open to success again, whatever that success is. And you will be more successful even at your tasks because you bring joy to them, right? You will be a more
Mhm.
successful podcast host just by looking at all the tasks throughout the day and approaching it with great joy. Okay. It's not about happiness and contentment. It's like, this 35 minutes that we're doing or 40 minutes, whatever it is, I am gonna find joy in every conversation that I have during this 40 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you. And I definitely will look towards you reading your book when it comes out. By the way, when is it being released?
I'm gonna look forward to reading it when it comes out also. Those of us who have written books know that, the challenge is it's kind of never finished, right? And I say that because I'm always thinking of more ways to say the things that I want to share in there, right? And so it's kind of a never-ending process. And at some point, you actually just have to stop and say, I just have to stop and just do these things. The thing about the book is I'm trying to keep it short, under 100 pages, so that everyone can
Wow.
accept it. What's interesting about that is publishers don't want to do less than about 180 to 200 pages. I don't understand this because no one really wants to read tomes. In fact, 300 pages is less interesting to me to read than if you gave me 100 pages and say, this is going to change your life. In fact, give me 50 pages that'll change my life. Give me one page that'll change my life. I like it more, right? I can't put
Yeah.
all this into one page, but we can put it into under 100 pages. And so I'm trying to keep it short. The publishers don't like that, but I will win with joy. So it doesn't matter. They just don't understand. What's interesting, I don't think they understand, sort of current humanity, which is we all want to read, but because we're multitasking and doing a lot of things, we all don't have time to read 350 pages, right? And if I can say it in less, I should say it in less. And I love saying things succinctly and less, because then people, they grok it. A lot of these books, these kinds of books, they say it and then they tell you 1,800 stories about it, but you already said it. Like, you can give me one story. We're going to give some story examples, but very limited. It's like, I'm saying it, do this. This is why it works for me. Here's an example. Moving on to the next chapter. If you didn't get that, go back and read the chapter again. I don't need to give you 10 more stories. This is obvious. This isn't that hard. So that's just my own, premise, right, of doing these things. And not everyone agrees, but I think when they read it and they're done with it in an airplane ride, they'll thank me for keeping it short.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wrap up today, what is one key takeaway you'd want listeners to remember about using the joy success cycle to create more joy and success in their lives?
Oh my, the takeaway is take the test that we said right at the beginning to take, right? Get up tomorrow and, it's a little bit, as I'm a keynote speaker on AI. Also, I've been in the AI space for 25 years. That's a whole other conversation. But it's like what I say about AI is people say, oh yes, I played with ChatGPT. I said, then you haven't used it. I want you to do real work with ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever model you want to use. Real work. You say, this is the work I have to get done today. I'm going to learn how to do it with this thing next to me, right? I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm not going to play with it. The same is true with the joy success cycle. I am going to learn to do this. I'm not going to toy with it or play with it or try it. No, I'm going to do it. As Yoda would say, you don't try, you do, right? Do not try. And so do it. Get up tomorrow morning and count the number of negatives, both verbally and what happened in your head for the day. And I want you then to sit at the end of the day and go, do I actually think 112 negatives was healthy for me? And it's odd, the obvious answer. No, this is not going to lead me to more success. It leads me to less success. I have spent how much energy? Maybe 60 minutes of energy on negative thoughts throughout the day. Why would you spend 1 second on don't. Then you get up the next day and you go, I think he's right. I have to get to 1. And you won't be at 1. You'll be at 50 the next day, and then 40 the next day, and 30 the next day. And then you go outside and get cold. And you do all that. And eventually you're going to get to 1 a day and you're going to go, I'm crushing this. This is and people write to me and say it, and we're even without the book, just with podcasts and stuff, that this changed my life. It changed my life. And I controlled it my whole life. Sharlee, you control this your whole life. It's just no one told you about this 5 years ago, or you would have done it. So don't try, do.
Nice. Okay, so for our listeners who are going to be interested, how can they learn more about your work and where can they find you?
Yeah, I have a website, kevinsurace.com. And it will, when the book launches, that'll be on there. There's a lot of my podcast, a lot of the podcasts I've done are on there. A lot of writing is on there, a lot of stuff. So, and my keynote talks and things like that. And there's a LinkedIn, my LinkedIn address is there. So one can message me if they want. I do answer my messages as long as they're nice and joyful.
Awesome. Well,
otherwise,
Kevin, you just push the button on them, huh? But Kevin,
which brings me great joy.
I believe that it does.
Sometimes. Oh, you're welcome, Sharlee. Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure.
Absolutely. I really have appreciated speaking with you today and look forward to changing my life with this mindset shift. Thank you.
Get back to me in a few weeks or a few months and let me know how it's going.
I definitely will. Thanks. And thank you to our listeners for taking the time to join us. Before you go, we'd really love your help. Please leave a review and share the podcast with a friend. By spreading the word, you help us grow and reach more people, allowing others to discover the valuable insights shared in each episode. Thank you for being such an important part of the Behavioral Health Today community. As always, the resources for this episode and an archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Tried Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.